time to kick some pedo and rapist ass tomorrow. This was a tweet posted on April 30th, 2025 by a YouTuber by the name of ILoveKimPossibleAlot. The rapist she was referring to was her former friend Saberspark. An anonymous woman accused Saberspark of raping her at a brony convention in 2012. This stunning accusation would be the centerpiece of KP's 2-hour-long expose on Saberspark and DA Games. If you told a fan of Bronies React back in 2014 that KP would publicly expose Saberspark for being an alleged rapist on the public stage known as YouTube, they wouldn't have believed you. These two were friends and collaborators that bonded over their shared love of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, but those days are long gone. In the year 2025, it's become crystal clear that she no longer views him as the Marco to her star, or the Spike to her Twilight Sparkle, but as an enemy that needed to be vanquished. She's wielding the Infinity Gauntlet with every Infinity Stone in it, and when she snaps her fingers on May 1st, Saberspark's entire career will disappear in the blink of an eye. This is a day that KP has been waiting over a decade for. For all intents and purposes, she is the Buddy Pine to his Mr. Incredible. Any chance they could have had to reconcile is too late. 11 years too late. Saberspark is Drake, and KP is Kendrick Lamar about to drop Not Like Us. But as Cartoon She pointed out, she is not Kendrick Lamar, and unlike the world of hip-hop, her knockout punch completely missed the mark. This is not a story about helping victims, doing the right thing, or holding powerful YouTubers accountable for abusing their platform to harm others. This is a story about a vindictive woman that wanted to exact revenge on her former friend and the devastating consequences that have occurred as a result of her own selfish actions. It turns out that all Rachel needed in this life of sin was a man by the name of Stephen Carver. Our story begins all the way back in 2015 at a brony convention called Everfree Northwest, where KP was a community guest. Chris was a former member of Team KP from 2014 to 2015 and attended the convention alongside KP. At some point during the convention, Chris was masturbating on the toilet and became lightheaded after getting an orgasm. He then proceeded to fall off the toilet and ended up landing face first onto a pair of KP's used panties. KP was completely unaware of this incident until someone told her about it 8 years later. She was understandably furious about this disgusting revelation and confronted Chris about it in a private call.
I guess I'd go first, yeah.
Go for it.
All right. Well, first, I think it's the obvious thing is one, just want to profusely apologize for that terrible fucking thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that, God, was an absolute horrible person so many years ago. And you didn't deserve that. So.
Right. So I have a couple of things. So my source says you told this story in front of Will and Sean and a couple other people. Is that correct?
That would probably be correct, yeah.
So Will has heard this story probably in passing a couple of times, correct?
Yeah, probably once.
Okay. Same with Sean?
Yeah, Sean.
Okay. Did you talk to Sean privately about anything else that happened when you were working on the team that I don't know about?
Not that I can remember.
Okay.
The gross, disgusting, and inappropriate masturbation story that Chris told was completely fake. He did not do any of the things that I just described, and he admitted that he made the whole thing up. I'll let the man in question explain the litany of different reasons he had for making up a completely fake story at the humiliating expense of KP.
Okay, and just for the record, the story you told didn't happen, right?
No.
Okay.
No, it's 100% false. And the only, like, if I may,
Go.
take them. Nothing I say is meant to excuse what I did, because it's inexcusable what I did.
Do you want me to say what the story was just for context, or do you want to explain it?
I mean, I guess it makes more sense if I do, because I
Sure.
don't think it's fair for you to have to reiterate that horrible thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so the old tale goes is that I pleasured myself in the hotel bathroom we were sharing during one of our breaks when everyone was gone and whatever, and that I fell off the John after basically getting lightheaded from what would be ejaculation falling on the floor, where your dirty clothes also happened to be, and that my face planted on your underwear. I can assure you that the first time I ever told it, and this is my brutal honesty, is because I was very angry at you at the time and was also going through a really bad situation of being on the verge of being homeless and not knowing how to deal with my aggression of the feelings I was having toward you and the feelings I was having toward my family. And I made this stupid shit up to validate myself for some stupid fucking reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And really only told it to other former KP people who were also frustrated with you at the time. Excuse me, that was fucking stupid. I should never have done that. And I don't know why. For some reason at the time, I thought it was funny. It's not funny.
Okay.
And the fact that we have to revisit this so many years later is just horrendous. No, well, my frustration really was that, like a lot of people there, I felt undervalued and overworked for no pay.
Uh-huh.
And that's really what it was, is that and I lashed out in an extremely toxic way.
Right. And then
So,
just for the record, you've never tried to talk to me about any of that directly, because I don't remember that you did.
say that again.
Have you ever tried to talk to me directly about how you were feeling at the time?
I can't recall. I
Okay.
think I brought up pay at one point, but I would assume it wasn't on the.
I'm just
wasn't
trying
on,
to sure that, like, because that wasn't my intention. That's never been my intention, doing YouTube for 10 years. And unfortunately, the trauma and that experience helped me to kind of make sure I call it my trauma brain, but make sure my trauma brain, everyone's treated well. And so I'm just confirming that, which matches up with my memory of, like, you never talked to me about it directly. Sean and Christian did, and they realized they as well never brought these issues to me directly. So I assume that you didn't, and you probably, based on the timeline, you probably didn't bring them up either, because you probably thought it was handled. Correct? Does that sound about right?
that sounds accurate.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
KP sent evidence of Chris's wrongdoing to his current employers, DA Games and Saberspark. It's important to mention that Chris told his story to Will Ryan, who was part of DA Games and was one of only 2 people to hear it. If you were wondering who the second person was, I can assure you that it wasn't Saberspark. The reason why KP sent this private call as evidence was because she wanted DA Games and Saberspark to fire Chris as a result of the fake story he told 8 years earlier. An HR representative for DA Games reached out to Rachel via email and claimed that they had launched an investigation into Chris's behavior. They ultimately decided not to fire him because they felt that the situation between him and Rachel had been dealt with privately, and they told her that they were not going to take any further action. Based on the call, they came to the conclusion that the situation between Chris and Rachel had already been dealt with. They also cited the fact that the story was told before his employment at DA Games, and as a result, he did not violate their code of conduct. This fact is important to remember because Chris was still a member of Team KP when this fake story was told. Saber also decided not to fire him. While he made it abundantly clear that his story was inappropriate, he felt that Chris had done good work for the team. He also pointed out that the incident in question took place nearly 10 years ago, and that he believed in the inner growth of a person and that they could change for the better. Chris apologized to Saber and admitted to his faults, which contributed to him not getting fired. You're probably wondering how you can send a private call in an email as evidence of someone else's wrongdoing. The only way a private call can be used as evidence is if the call was recorded. This would not be a bad thing if the other person knew that they were being recorded. Unfortunately, Chris did not get that luxury because the entire call was recorded without his knowledge or consent. That fact is problematic on its own, but it's made even worse by the fact that this is coming from a person who once said that it was morally wrong to record someone without their consent or knowledge, and I can prove that by using her own words.
And then it got a little worse. Because this huge snowball of not taking accountability kept on building and building and building, and they kept calling me bad things because I wanted them to take accountability so people could realize what happened, but they refused to do that. I eventually got on a call with Mag, Loss's partner, because Loss wouldn't talk to me, because I yelled at her, fine. And what I learned is that call was recorded without my consent or knowledge and was potentially going to be leaked public if I were to lie about what happened in the call. And that's just villainizing me because it's assuming I'm gonna lie. And, as a victim of all this stuff, that's just bad faith, guys. Really. It's also morally wrong to record someone without their consent or knowledge. Just because it's on a state-by-state basis doesn't mean you're morally in the right just because it's technically not illegal. What are we, children?
To put it mildly, KP was not happy about the fact that DA Games and Saberspark exercised their right to determine who they wanted to hire and fire, so she decided to pull an Aaron Joni and went completely nuclear. On November 12, 2024, KP posted a tweet where she revealed that DA Games tried to make her sign an NDA in exchange for them giving her their investigation report about Chris. DA Games publicly announced that Chris was taking an indefinite leave of absence. This was purely a PR move that was made in response to Rachel going public. It was a face-saving move in every sense of the word because they had absolutely no intention of firing him, and that stance would be proven true when they brought him back after the backlash had died down. I should also mention that KP and Saberspark got into a back and forth Twitter spat after someone in the comments section tagged him, and the whole thing turned into a complete clusterfuck. KP had somehow managed to turn a private situation between herself and her former volunteer into an unnecessary public spectacle. When she was interviewed a year later by the YouTuber Copen Seith, she explained why she wanted Chris to be fired.
Because I went looking through some of the Chris stuff, KP. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's very difficult with the Chris stuff because what I've got your section in the video, which is a 2-minute cut, and that's a condensed version of the full call, which isn't noted as a condensed version in your video. And then I've listened to the full call, and Chris is highly apologetic, takes full accountability for his actions, explains to you that, where he was at the time and the fact that he has sought therapy and to modify that behavior. He's not making excuses for it. He's literally just actually taking account. So I'm trying to understand why you felt it was necessary to make a video on him, or why he should be fired for something that happened a decade ago and he has apologized for.
I guess I just wanted a sense of accountability, if that makes sense. Like, I get your point, though.
It's very difficult, because what does accountability look like? I mean, again, he didn't actually assault anybody. He made up a weird story, which is very fucking weird, I agree with you. But if accountability is you should lose your job, your livelihood, and everything else, I mean, would you agree that's fairly extreme?
I think, like, maybe, like, some sort of statement from him, too, might have helped. Like, no, I get your point, though. Like, that this was a thing that happened and this probably damaged some relationships that I was working on at the time. And, that kind of sucks, but I see what you mean.
I listened to this call in its entirety, and I can say with 100% confidence that he does not downplay his actions, he doesn't gaslight her, and he doesn't deny that it happened. He admitted that what he said about KP was wrong, and apologized to her multiple times, and revealed that he had gone to therapy. He took accountability for his actions, and was all but groveling for her forgiveness, but it wasn't good enough because she wanted a public apology from him, which wouldn't have made any sense because he already apologized to her privately. I personally believe that KP's motivation for going public about all of this was to publicly shame Chris for what he said all the way back in 2015. If that wasn't the case, then she wouldn't have used his fake masturbation story as the launching point for a 2-hour-long expose that was intended to destroy the career of someone that she used to call a friend. One of the biggest problems that this video has is the fact that it's littered with an endless stream of jokes, memes, and comedic reaction clips. When I was watching this for the first time, I genuinely wondered if this was supposed to be a serious expose or a long-lost episode of Family Guy I never knew about. Rachel's comedic style of video making completely undermines the tone of this entire expose, and it communicates to the audience that these allegations should not be taken seriously and that the whole thing is one big joke.
Now, I don't like covering these stories. We're an animation channel. We cover very important stuff like Disney and not Disney things sometimes. But I like to think of myself like the Jon Stewart of the YouTube animation community. I call things out when I feel like I can add something to the conversation. And it's important to talk about when YouTubers are misusing their platform, so what's the no fun situation? Because I hate it here.
I don't want to be alive anymore.
I've chosen not to keep this person anonymous because I believe this is not a mistake or a slip of the tongue. This is an active attempt of slander and misogyny, and that's just not acceptable. Also, this incident wasn't freely admitted to me. I had to have someone else tell me that this was going on, in a professional setting.
And he couldn't even tell me himself.
Chris was generally a nice guy in my time knowing him, but he exhibited weird behavior. Like, you just draw this for your boss, right? If memory serves, there's also a nude version.
That's disgusting.
I eventually received someone at DA Games in their totally real HR department that totally exists, even though I couldn't find any proof of it online. That's totally not run by Will's roommate, who's financially dependent on him. And for the record, I assumed Chris knew he was being recorded because it was a call about safety. It only gets worse from here.
I'm gonna need every last drop of this.
Chris's statement also came out, which is really respectful, calling me an employer.
Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
And then trying to make himself the victim. Chris, if you felt mistreated, this is the first I'm ever hearing about it. So politely talk to me directly or shut the fuck up.
You need to shut the fuck up!
But it seems like that minors are in threat of being preyed on. Will himself has done some suspicious behavior, and it seems like nothing's going to change unless it's talked about in a bigger way.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
So a couple of things to unpack here besides me not purposely tagging Steven. It was a third party. Regardless, Steven proceeded to call me a liar publicly.
You calling me a liar?
I ain't calling you a truther.
Steven is claiming that I never contacted him directly, implying that he'd had no information about this, but admits to knowing the confrontation with Chris was recorded.
Sound like some bullshit to me.
I guess you can be Jerry Seinfeld, who dated a 17-year-old when he was 38.
So, what are you gonna do later?
I got a date with Nikki.
Oh, yeah, she's a beauty.
And she's also 17.
Bold and beautiful.
I'll tell you the big advantage of dating a high schooler. If you're going out with someone your own age, You can't take advantage of them.
I suppose.
Oh, come on! That's a huge feature. Think about it. She's so young, she doesn't realize I'm a predator.
Jerry.
Yes?
I've been doing a lot of thinking.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't think we should see each other anymore.
Oh, that's okay.
What?
No, it's fine. No problem. I'll meet somebody else. Sure. There are plenty of high schools in New York City.
Huh?
It's fine. Anyway, it's been really nice grooming you for a while. I'm gonna go scope out a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, you too.
She'll be coming round the mountain when she...
Another common source of criticism is the fact that she was hyping up this video in the lead up to its release. She had a Discord watch party, a YouTube premiere, and a slew of tweets, including one where she portrayed herself as Moses. And no, I am not making that up. She was promoting this video like it was going to be the greatest spectacle in exposés. She was more concerned about making this singular video as big as the Super Bowl in terms of hype. But this isn't the Super Bowl or the Indianapolis 500. These are serious allegations about real people that have life-ruining implications, and hyping them up as some sort of major event is not a good idea under any circumstance. But KP was too high from inhaling the smell of her own farts to realize that. The woman that read the disclaimer at the beginning was a YouTuber by the name of Kayla Says, and she revealed that KP gave her a trigger warning script to read and that she recorded it despite not knowing what it was for. She was not familiar with any of the people that were involved and was out of the loop on the controversy that surrounded the video, which essentially confirmed that KP didn't tell her what the video was going to be about beforehand. For some reason, KP thought it would be a good idea to devote an entire section to Anon KP leaks as a pathetic way of convincing the audience that she was qualified to talk about a topic like this. While she was unquestionably the victim in that situation, Anon KP leaks had nothing to do with this video, and its inclusion was self-serving, self-aggrandizing, and quite frankly, egotistical. If you have to convince the audience that you're qualified to talk about topics like this, then you are not qualified to talk about topics like this. When Mr. Enter made a video about the worst predator hunt of all time, he didn't need to convince the audience that he was qualified to talk about a serious topic like that. They already knew that he was qualified because he conducted himself in a professional manner and gave the situation in question the seriousness and respect that it deserved. KP's lack of seriousness and respect is one of the biggest issues I have with this expose, and nowhere is that more evident than this infamous clip.
I've come to make an announcement! Shadow the Hedgehog is a bitch-ass motherfucker! He pissed on my fucking wife! That's right! He said his dick was this big, and I said, that's disgusting! So I'm making a call-out post on my Twitter.com! Shadow the Hedgehog, you got a small fucking dick! It's the size of this walnut, but way fucking smaller! And guess what? Here's what my dong looks like! That's right, baby! All points! No quills! No pillows! Look at that! It looks like two balls and a bong! He fucked my wife! Guess what? I'm gonna fuck the earth! That's right! That's what you get! My super laser piss! Except I'm not gonna piss on the earth! I'm going higher! I'm gonna piss on the moon! How do you like that, oh bomber? You have 23 hours before the piss droplets fall on the earth! Now get out of my fucking sight before I piss on you too!
The comedic rant you just heard was made by a YouTuber named VeggieBLT. The video you're seeing on screen right now was a rendition of another comedic announcement that was made by the YouTuber Snapcube. KP wants us to laugh at Sabersparks' expense over a dumb Twitter spat, but the problem with that approach is that it's not funny. If this video was titled I Don't Like Saberspark, then this joke would have been a perfect fit, but because this is a video about rape and pedophilia allegations, the joke ends up being completely out of place. KP didn't even bother to credit Veggie BLT for using his video, and because of her incompetent negligence, this genuinely funny rant will forever be associated with this dumpster fire of an expose. Since we're on the topic of Saberspark, we have to talk about the fact that he's barely in this video. This video is titled What Ruined Saberspark and DA Games, but Saber's section is only 18 minutes and 51 seconds long, which is disappointing because she gave everybody the impression that he would be the main focus of this expose. This entire section is about Saberspark not firing Chris and KP being angry that he failed to do so. If you're suspecting that this entire section was thrown into this video at the last minute, that's because it literally was. The section on DA Games was not much better. For starters, it took her nearly 27 minutes to even get to the allegations, and while they had some genuine weight behind them, it was offset by the video's poor presentation. The audience was conditioned to not take these allegations seriously because of KP's unprofessional approach, or in other words, any impact these allegations could have had were completely nullified. DA Games essentially got let off the hook because people weren't talking about the allegations or the victims that bravely went out on a limb to tell their own stories. They were talking about how awful the video was and how KP had shot herself in the foot. There's a lengthy discussion about consent, which is ironic because KP recorded her call with Chris without his knowledge or consent. Her excuse for doing this is quite frankly idiotic.
And for the record, I assumed Chris knew he was being recorded because it was a call about safety.
I can't believe I have to even have this segment, but with the implication of Steven's "what are you gonna do, record me?" comment on top of Chris's statement talking about the recording being without his knowledge, let's just clear this up. So firstly, as already stated, I thought it was obvious that a call-up was being recorded for safety reasons, because it's about sexual harassment. It's not like a fun call. Like, I thought it was obvious. Obviously it wasn't.
I don't know if anyone has ever told you this, but consent isn't just important in regards to sex, it's important in life. It's also morally wrong to record someone without their consent or knowledge. Just because it's on a state-by-state basis doesn't mean that you're morally in the right just because it's technically not illegal. What are we, children? This part wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention the fact that KP devoted an entire segment to Lily Orchard at the end of her expose. I despise Lily Orchard as much as the next person, but it makes absolutely no sense to dunk on her in a video that has absolutely nothing to do with her. I don't care about your personal beef with her, and I certainly don't care about her eating old pieces of gum off the sidewalk when she was a kid. It's not relevant to the topic at hand, and more importantly, nobody asked for this in a video that was supposed to be about Saberspark and DA Games. This video is a bloated, disjointed, and unfocused mess, and this segment is one of the many reasons why. It is nothing more than useless padding to make the video longer than it has to be. If you wanted to shit on Lily that badly, then you should have made another video that was strictly about her. The only problem with that suggestion is that it makes sense, and if something makes sense, it has no place inside of KP's brain. I've spent this entire section talking about some of the problems that make this video so bad, but there is one big problem I haven't talked about yet, and it's the reason why we're all here in the first place. On May 1st, 2025, the Twitter account BronyFandon't published a testimony that was written by an anonymous woman. The anonymous accuser in question accused Saberspark of raping her at a Brony convention in 2012. This written testimony would make its way into KP's expose, which was released 2 hours after this tweet was posted.
I became a fan of Saberspark when I was in high school when I found his essay titled Ballad of the Brony in 2011. After graduating and turning 18, I added him on Skype to tell him I was a big fan of his. He added me back almost instantly, and we had a conversation ending with him giving me his phone number, which was a really big deal to me at the time since this was the first time interacting with any sort of celebrity. I had developed a parasocial crush on him due to being starstruck, which was something he was aware of. We would talk on Skype and text each other semi-frequently leading up to the first time meeting him. In 2012, I went to my first pony convention. This was my first time ever traveling by myself and was soon after the two of us became friends. When I met up with him in person, he invited me to his hotel room and he showed me the video he was editing on his laptop, causing me to internally geek out. I was really nervous being alone in a hotel with someone I was a huge fan of and had a crush on, but I tried to play it cool. He was 4 to 5 years older than me, making me feel more nervous and out of place. He would bring up the prospects of the two of us dating and how it didn't feel right for us to do so. After that, he almost immediately initiated making out with me and guided me to his bed. In this moment, he did not directly ask me for consent. I was thrown onto his bed and he would insert himself into me. Saberspark was also significantly larger than me, as I was an 80-something pound 18-year-old girl, so I physically could not stop him. I felt extremely nervous and uncomfortable because I had never experienced having any sort of sexual intimacy with someone I was not dating before, much less someone I just met. I was very new to meeting people online in general. At that moment, I laid there dissociating as I felt very wrong while trying to rationalize it in my head to convince myself it was a safe and normal encounter. He rushed off to clean and finish himself and came back to the bed and offered me a handshake saying, "Friends?" This would cause me for the rest of the event to feel that I was taken advantage of and ashamed of myself for not trying to stop the interaction. Though I tried pretending I was fine to everyone around me, I was, and still am, demisexual, and being put in that position was not something I wanted. I maintained the friendship until a second occurrence happening at a completely different PonyCon in 2013. This time we met in a public space, but had no one around and talked for a while. He kept bringing up the prospects of us starting a relationship, but how it felt wrong. He would grab my hand saying how it felt so right, only to push my hand away saying, "But so wrong." I had decided that my crush on him was something I needed to get over because I felt that my emotions were being toyed with. He then suggested going to a more public space around others, and we went into the elevator to go up to the lobby of the PonyCon hotel. As soon as the door closed, Saberspark forcefully shoved me against the wall and shoved his tongue down my throat. It scared me and actually hurt, triggering another attack of dissociation. Once again, he did not ask for consent when throwing me into this situation. Once the doors opened and people were present, this led me to feel very embarrassed. He got off me and took my hand and guided me towards the stairs to go back down to where we just were and into a men's restroom where he pulled his pants down and guided my hands and head to perform oral sex on him. I was afraid of denying him because of past experiences with sexual assault, so I did it to get it over with without wanting to cause a problem, where he would ejaculate on my face, apologize profusely, and then offer the same handshake as he did at the con I initially met him, saying, "Friends?" Despite pretending I was fine, I had slowly begun pulling away from Saberspark. I cried that night while staying with a friend, but waited for that friend to fall asleep so no one could hear me, and I would cry for months, feeling ashamed of myself for putting myself in a compromising situation with someone I hardly knew. I had always felt taken advantage of by him, and tried being friendly and pretending nothing was wrong because it was all I knew how to do. I would blame myself for the interactions for years, only opening up to a few close people, questioning if consent was implied because of my crush, and unwillingness and fear to outright stop the advances because of how uncomfortable I felt. I understand that there is a possibility that he felt consent was implied because he knew I had a crush on him. However, he did not once ask for consent directly and was instead thrown into these sexual encounters, usually very suddenly. There were no discussions about the power dynamic between us as a popular content creator and a fan at any time. And my parasocial connection to him and not wanting someone I was a fan of to hate me if I rejected him, leaving me afraid to stop his advances. Over time, I grew increasingly distant and would eventually end contact completely. I don't feel safe enough to fully come forward because I don't want his fans and friends or even him to harass or contact me publicly. I wish to stay anonymous so I can avoid the anxiety and stress of being targeted by either him, his friends, and especially his fans, as Saberspark has over 2 million subscribers, and even sharing my story at all has me feeling really afraid. I have seen other instances of Saberspark using his enormous platform to confront people online he has had conflict with. I have also witnessed several instances of his friends attempting to justify him and others' actions. I was not made aware of his jokes about consent and his recent behavior involving Chris until only recently, and it left my stomach in knots. I please ask above all else for my privacy to be respected. I don't wish to publicly defend my personal experience and just wish to share my experience.
The name of Sabersparks' accuser was revealed to be Emily Jones, aka Emu Emmy. To put it bluntly, there is very little evidence to back up her claims. The only other piece of evidence I could find were a series of tweets from 2012 that someone compiled into a Google document. These tweets confirm that Saber and Emily attended Canterlot Gardens and Equestria, Los Angeles, which is where these alleged incidents took place. They also confirm that they interacted a few times. They do not confirm that these allegations are true, and they do not confirm that they are false. These are unverified and unsubstantiated allegations that have no smoking gun. It's impossible to make a definitive judgment call one way or the other due to the lack of evidence. Rachel should not have run with these allegations publicly unless she had indisputable proof that Stephen was a rapist, but she chose to forego factual evidence and ran with these allegations anyway, even though they were purely based on hearsay.
So, just to be as objective as possible here, so what you're saying is that basically the evidence that you were given was more personal circumstance and hearsay rather
Correct.
than like
Correct.
objective evidence?
Correct. They didn't have any Skype logs or anything because of how long it was ago, and we did ask, so.
She also admitted that Emily had no evidence other than convention footage that would have identified her. I don't blame Emily for any of this because it was KP's job to properly vet these allegations in order to ensure that they were actually legitimate. Her failure to do so has severely damaged Emily's credibility as a victim and has given everybody the impression that these allegations are completely false. KP's ethical standards were shattered by the revelation that she had tailored Emily's testimony so that it would be a better fit for her expose. The YouTuber Copen Seath managed to find the original version of Emily's testimony, and as you can see on screen right now, there are highlighted notes where she is telling Emily what she should say. It was also revealed that Lily Orchard's sister, Courtney Pete, had a hand in tailoring the testimony. She expressed concern about Emily giving Saberspark grace at the expense of herself because she said that she understood that he may have thought that the consent between them was implied. Emily ended up removing that line as a result of Courtney's feedback. Not only is this unethical, it's also insanely gross, because it's not your story to tell. Rape is one of the most traumatic things that a person can go through, and if someone is alleging that it happened to them and they want to speak out about it, then they should be the one to tell their own story, and they should not be influenced or manipulated to go in a certain direction to fulfill someone else's ulterior motive. I should also mention that KP didn't disclose her intimate involvement with Emily to the audience because she wanted everyone to believe that she was an unbiased third party that was giving an anonymous accuser a platform to tell her own story. If KP truly cared about Emily and her story, she wouldn't have molded her testimony into what she wanted it to be, and she wouldn't have thrown her under the bus the moment shit hit the fan.
From my understanding, you shared a Dropbox file with Lazy, and your fucking name was on it. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's direct confirmation. So I'm at the point where my reputation is on the line because of you. And I feel like an idiot because of you. And you can help me clean up this mess and get in a call and tell your side of the story, or this is going to blow up in your face, because people have already figured out it's you based on that mistake. And I'm fucking tired, because the things that have been pointed out to me is that you have your own platform. You know, people, you knew going in that people were going to figure it out. Maybe not this quickly, maybe not by your own mistake, but they did. And you can be an adult and help me clean up this mess, or you can be a coward. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not telling you what to do, but you have put me, you've put people that are in the video in a very difficult and dangerous position. And I don't think you really understand that. And so I'm at the point where I talked to this guy Beckett, and he says that you have the chance right now to tell your side of the story in a call with me or with Lazy or with him or with someone, or people are going to villainize you. And that's where we're at. And none of like the things that have been pointed out to me doesn't make any sense. The timeline is questionable. The only people that vouched for you were Brony and Amy and Sophie, and Amy won't even fucking talk to me. So I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm being real with you. It's fucked. You're fucked one way or the other. So make a decision soon, or I will publicly confirm it was you. You have 24 hours.
It's not her fault that your reputation is in the fucking toilet, and it's not her responsibility to clean up the mess that you made. You're the one that made the video, so put your big girl pants on and own up to what you did. Brony Fandom was quick to throw you under the bus when the court of public opinion turned against you, and I was sincerely hoping that you wouldn't do the same. You know what it's like to be on the receiving end of someone else not taking accountability. Let's not forget that the lost narrator knew that Bogsy was the one behind Anon KP leaks and chose not to tell you, which contributed to your life turning into a living hell in 2016. For someone that preaches about accountability so much, it's disappointing that you chose not to take it when you had the chance. You threatened to reveal the identity of an alleged rape victim because your clout-chasing hit piece didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. I can't even say that's petty, because I don't think it's appropriate for this situation. The word that we should be using here is evil. What KP threatened to do to Emily is downright evil, and she should be ashamed of herself. I don't know why you fired Bogsy, because as far as I'm concerned, you two deserve each other. He made your life a living hell back in 2016 because he was salty about getting fired for missing deadlines, and you were willing to subject Emily to an avalanche of harassment by Saberspark and his fans because you made a shitty, insensitive, and tone-deaf video that everyone hated. You clearly didn't care about any of that because you were so consumed by your hatred of Saberspark, which would explain why you didn't send Chris's confession to him directly.
So once I was informed of this information and got Chris admitting to it, I sent that proof to Saberspark through mutual friends and to DA Games.
In order to understand why Rachel would do this, we have to talk about her former friendship with Steven. KP and Saberspark met in 2014 and eventually became friends because of their shared love of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Towards the end of 2014, Saber got a new job and started dating someone. He became incredibly busy over the course of the next 5 months and had very little time to hang out with KP. KP would occasionally reach out to him, but he was too busy to hang out with her. He claimed that their friendship ending was nothing personal and that they naturally drifted apart. Rachel, on the other hand, alleged that their friendship ended because of Steven's romantic interest in her. As you can probably guess, she didn't feel the same way and wanted to remain friends. She even stated to him at one point, "These feel like dates. I'm just making sure we are hanging out as friends, right?" She then claimed that Steven grew distant and that she felt manipulated and pressured to say that she was open to dating in order not to lose that friendship. He then proceeded to date Gabe's sister over her and then asked about her dating availability after that relationship ended. She was uncomfortable about the whole situation and felt that she was only valuable to Steven if she was dateable. The reason why Rachel didn't contact Steven directly about Chris's behavior is because he triggers the shit out of her. The point I'm trying to make here is that her motivation was fueled by her personal vendetta against Saberspark. She was upset about the fact that their friendship ended over a decade ago and has never been able to get over that and move on with her life. So when she saw an opportunity to end his career, she took it without a second thought. This is Velma Dinkley logic, but in real life. You hurt me and I hurt you. Her actions throughout this entire shit show were nothing more than a series of calculated business decisions that were designed to prevent her channel from reaching the end of its lifespan. From a logical perspective, it would have made sense to make separate exposés on DA Games and Saberspark, but from a viewership perspective, it would have been an absolute disaster. Her audience had no idea who DA Games even were, so if she made a video solely dedicated to them, it would not have gotten that many views. But her audience knew who Saberspark was, which meant that any video about him would get a lot of views, regardless of the quality. The only reason KP put Saberspark in the title was because she knew it would get more clicks. The video was so universally reviled that she unlisted it hours after its release and then deleted it altogether 2 days later. She deleted 80,733 views on May 3rd, so if she ignored the backlash and kept the video up, it would have easily gotten over 100,000 views. So if you're wondering why she titled her expose, "What Ruined Saberspark and DA Games?" there's your answer. At the time of writing this, Saberspark has 2.1 million subscribers, and his average view count is 100,000 or more, which is very healthy for a channel of his size. KP, on the other hand, has an average view count in the single digits, which is absolutely horrendous for a channel that has 124,000 subscribers. The only mega hits she's had in the last 6 years were this expose before it was deleted, her video on Lily Orchard, and the Best of Pixar, which was a collaboration with fellow animation YouTuber Sabersparks. The first part was on her channel, and if you wanted to watch the second part, you had to go to KP's channel, so I think it's fair to say that most of the video's viewership came from Sabersparks. To say that this whole thing reeks of desperation would be an understatement. She publicly questioned her worth as a content creator when her Lion King documentary flopped harder than a fish out of water, so I think it's fair to say that her priorities were not in the right place when she decided to try and take down Saberspark. Another calculated aspect of this video was her dishonest framing of Chris's PG retelling of his infamous story.
So the old tale goes is that I pleasured myself in the hotel bathroom we were sharing during one of our breaks when everyone was gone and whatever, and that I fell off the John after basically getting lightheaded from what would be ejaculation falling on the floor, where your dirty clothes also happen to be, and that my face planted on your underwear.
Right. And
part of my PG version, I have a 6-year-old in the other room, so.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but thanks for being honest.
Chris, in his audio testimony, assured his other boss, YouTuber Saberspark, wasn't told this story. But it's unclear how truthful Chris is being when he says that. Chris also tries to steer the conversation to not include too much explicitly, stating that, quote, there is a baby in the other room, unquote. But that also might have been a ploy to lessen the harshness of the anger present. Regardless, since Chris says he was lying about the whole incident, it's difficult to take his word on anything due to this lie and the actions he took regarding it.
This was a calculated effort to make Chris's actions look bad, which was unnecessary because everyone already knew that his actions were bad, including Chris himself. She then had the audacity to claim that Chris said that there was a baby in the other room, when he actually said that there was a 6-year-old in the other room. Even though June the Kin narrated this section, KP is the one that wrote this script, and she chose to include that quote, even though she knew it was fake. If that isn't a clear-cut example of malicious intent, then quite frankly, I don't know what is. And that wasn't the only instance of her lying about something Chris had said.
Chris maybe have been bitter because I didn't reciprocate romantic feelings or something. Turns out editing for free isn't a winning strategy for dating KP.
Chris never said that romantic feelings were the reason why he made up that story, and I know that for a fact because KP asked him if that was the case, and he flat out denied it.
And so just to kind of reiterate, your anger towards me, I'll just be blunt. Did you have a crush on me and I didn't reciprocate the feeling?
No.
Did it, or like, can you articulate?
No, well, my frustration really was that, like a lot of people there, I felt undervalued and overworked for no pay.
Uh-huh.
And that's really what it was, is that and I lashed out in an extremely toxic way.
Right. And then
So,
just for the record, you've never tried to talk to me about any of that directly, because I don't remember that you did.
say that again?
Have you ever tried to talk to me directly about how you were feeling at the time?
I can't recall.
Okay.
I think I brought up pay at one point, but I would assume it wasn't on the.
I'm just trying to be sure that, like, because that wasn't my intention. That's never been my intention, doing YouTube for 10 years. And like unfortunately, the trauma and that experience helped me to kind of make sure I call it my trauma brain, but make sure my trauma brain, everyone's treated well. And so I'm just confirming that, which matches up with my memory of, like, you never talked to me about it directly. Sean and Christian did, and they realized they as well never brought these issues to me directly. So I assume that you didn't, and you probably, based on the timeline, you probably didn't bring them up either, because you probably thought it was handled. Correct? Does that sound about right?
That sounds accurate.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
When KP announced that the video had been taken down, she claimed that it was the first time that she had made a video on a topic of this nature, which was a complete lie because she had made a video on Lily Orchard last year, which was handled with far more tact and respect than this trash heap that masquerades as an expose. A former member of Team KP revealed that they had to force her to take the topic at hand seriously, and that they had cut out all of the jokes, which says a lot about her intentions in regards to that video and how it would have turned out if Team KP didn't intervene. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that Brony Fandone's publishing of Emily's testimony and KP's expose were released within 2 hours of each other on the exact same day. The fact that this was the case was not a coincidence. They knew about these allegations in March, but they chose to sit on them until they could find an opportune time to do as much damage to Saberspark as humanly possible. These were truly the actions of people that cared about Emily and wanted to do right by her. We can totally put our trust in someone that referred to themselves as the Jon Stewart of the YouTube animation community.
Now, I don't like covering these stories. We're an animation channel. We cover very important stuff like Disney and not Disney things sometimes. But I like to think of myself like the Jon Stewart of the YouTube animation community. I call things out when I feel like I can add something to the conversation.
What you just heard was another example of KP's calculated lying. She desperately wanted everyone to believe that she cares about these issues and that she speaks out about them when she has something to add to the conversation, but that claim is bogus because she had only done it once before. While her video on Lily Orchard was good, it didn't expose anything about her that we didn't already know, and it didn't add anything to the conversation because Lily's history of being a terrible person was well documented long before KP made that video. Rachel insisted on making this ridiculous point because she wanted to portray herself as the good guy of this story, and that's ultimately the biggest problem. It was never about helping victims, it was never about doing the right thing, it was never about Emily, it was never about accountability, and it was never about the victims of DA Games or anyone else for that matter. It was always about KP and her self-righteous agenda. Her biggest priority was settling her decade-long score with Saberspark, and if she ended up creating a trail of devastation in the process, then that would simply be a part of the plan. KP has nobody to blame for this catastrophe but herself. This story only has two viable scenarios, and neither of them are good. If these allegations are true, Emily will never be able to get any sort of justice, and more importantly, Saberspark would essentially be let off the hook due to KP's piss-poor handling of this entire story. If these allegations are false, then not only did KP make herself look like an idiot, but she ruined someone's reputation for no reason. This story does not have a happy ending, and this entire saga of unfortunate events is a testament to that. I can't tell you that Saberspark is guilty because there's no evidence to prove that, and I can't tell you that he's innocent because there's no evidence to prove that either. So what we're left with is a story that doesn't have a definitive conclusion, and we will most likely never get it unless someone can find indisputable proof that either implicates or exonerates him. The prospect of that happening is virtually impossible because these alleged incidents occurred in 2012. Hi everyone, this is future me. The day after I completed the script for this video, Cope and Seath released a video titled Saberspark Has Receipts, and I'm relieved to say that we finally have a definitive answer about whether or not Saberspark is guilty or innocent. Based on the new revelations that have come to light, I can confidently say that Saberspark is innocent. For the purposes of this epilogue, I'm going to summarize these revelations as best as I can. Stephen and Emily did have sex when they both attended Canterlot Gardens, but it was completely consensual. He was nervous the first time that they did it because of the idea that someone would walk in on them doing the deed. He could not perform the act to the fullest extent because he was way too anxious, and it ended in very awkward fashion. Saber did not use protection when he had sex with Emily, and that's because she told him that she had an IUD, and he trusted her. It turned out that she did not have an IUD, and Saber nearly became a father. They had a friends with benefits relationship, and it was never meant to be anything serious. It's also important to mention that they planned to meet up and have sex at the convention. It was not forced upon her because he was incapable of respecting boundaries. He did get a blowjob from her in a men's bathroom at Equestria, Los Angeles, but he did not force her to perform oral sex on him. She willingly chose to do that because she wanted to relieve his stress, and as you can probably guess, this encounter was also consensual. Emily claimed that she stopped talking to Saberspark after these alleged incidents, but in reality, she continued to contact him months after all of this went down. To make a long story short, Emily lied and misrepresented what really happened between her and Stephen because she was upset about the fact that he ghosted her, and she went public with these false allegations because Saber Saber defended Black Griffin, who has recently come under fire for allegations of grooming, and she has also maintained that what Saber did was not consensual. KP didn't bother to get Saber's side of the story because she doesn't like him, and when you don't like someone, you're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt on anything. I've made my point clear, so I'm going to return you to my regularly scheduled narration. Take it away, past me. Saberspark uploaded his response on May 12th, 2025, and then went radio silent for a few weeks before returning to his regular slate of content. He announced in a recent community post that he is exploring legal options. Whether or not these options turn into a full-fledged defamation lawsuit remains to be seen. To be honest with you, I believe that a lawsuit is unlikely due to the fact that it's long, time-consuming, and expensive, and while Saber has done very well for himself, he is not Mr. Beast levels of rich. There's also the fact that he would have to prove that KP's actions have negatively impacted him as a person, which would be very difficult to do, and let's be honest, pointing out that you lost 30,000 subscribers on YouTube is not a good argument to use in a court of law. KP has gone into hiding since the release of her expose. She announced that it would be retooled only to backtrack a few weeks later. Her last tweet was on May 22nd, where she said that she was waiting for more news to drop independently before she responded to the current situation and cleared up misinformation, and to that I kindly say, fuck that. When it comes to a situation like this, you only get one chance to get it right. You had your chance, and you blew it in spectacular fashion. Nobody is interested in anything you have to say, and you have no credibility. So unless you're planning to give a public apology where you own up to everything that you did, take my advice and don't even bother. Please stay away from covering serious topics like this in the future, because your actions have proven that you are not qualified or mature enough to handle it with any sort of care. Your handling of this entire situation was the equivalent of letting a toddler grill a steak, so please, for the good of the entire internet, stick to making videos about animation that no one gives a shit about. You didn't deserve the scorn and hatred that you got from Anon KP leaks, but you absolutely deserve it in this instance for making a spectacle out of a disturbing rape allegation that you couldn't prove. So soak it all in, because you have earned every single second of it.